Well, I was born in Gander and I lived all over the country. My dad was a geologist, so we moved all over. But we moved back to Newfoundland in about 2010 because we had a little child and realized that life is really hard when you're trying to work and be a parent and have no sort of social support network. When I was in school in Toronto, one of my professors was an architect who had just finished a small little co-housing project. It was 3 elderly ladies who pooled their resources to create a little triplex through the co-housing model, and so he took us on a tour of that. And when you went in there, they lived downtown Mississauga. Places were expensive, but they were able to have these little apartments that were beautiful and invest in a Finnish masonry stove and in-floor heating and things that were sort of high-end, but they could do it because they were pooling their resources.
I think the main thing that got me involved in it was we took a trip to Nevada City, California, and toured around that co-housing community there. And it kind of sold me like the way that they were living there and just having the kids just running around in the neighborhood and playing on the sidewalk and kind of like the good old days, right?
We set up a for-profit corporation because that's the simplest thing to do, and we needed that in order to access the academic funding that we had lined up. In the spring of 2021, I think this land came on the market, and when we walked here, the group, like everybody who came here fell in love with the land. Like it was a connection to the land that really brought us all together. So our process is participatory design, and so we've gotten everybody who had like an idea that they wanted to live here come together and say, what do we want it to look like? Like, what do we want to protect? What are our priorities? And when you've got diversity like that and a lot of different perspectives, the results are a lot more equitable for everyone.
My interest in co-housing actually started a long time ago, before it was even called co-housing. It was years ago. Friends and I, who were really quite close, looking ahead to the future, sort of would jokingly talk about, not jokingly, it was quite serious actually, talking about how it would be really good when we get old. That was a long time ago. But then, when we get old, that'd be nice if we could all live in close proximity to each other so that we could easily get together when we wanted to, and also just easily just help each other out too when we needed to, without having to get in a car and all that stuff. I think that's a thing with many subdivisions and the way spaces are designed today is that people are living very much alone, whether it's, whether they're by themselves or their family, but it's in separate units apart from each other. And with co-housing, you're in your own unit as well. You're in close physical proximity. So it makes connecting, even just spontaneously. And that's where the best connections I find occur, right? Is when they're spontaneous, and that doesn't happen as easily in larger centers.
It was while I was doing a project with the town of Portugal Coast and Phillips. So anything that had the name of the town got my attention. And I saw a post about co-housing. I did some search, and then I learned it aimed to share resources and reduce waste. And waste is what I work with, helping others reduce waste. So that got my attention right away. I attended a public presentation. And then when I learned about the whole concept of living together, knowing your neighbor, sharing resources, feeling safe, feeling supported, I just wanted to be part of it right away.
This trickle of water here is actually this stream, and there's a duck pond up on another person's property up above us here, and it trickles down. And just a little bit below us here, we'll probably be putting our first earthen berm in, where our first constructed pond will be. And we'll link up to all the other ponds across the property at a certain elevation, because they'll be connected by a swale system all the way across. And that's all been kind of heavily researched, and it's taken from permaculture principles and key line design. I'm hoping to diversify our food as much as possible and try to grow as much as we want, things that we use, things that we want. Like I'm looking into, 300 years ahead. So I have trees that are already seedlings right now that are slated to go into these swale systems. And a lot of them are larger, old growing trees, sweet chestnuts, Persian walnuts, that eventually in time will become themselves a wood resource once they mature, in 70, 80, 100 years from now.
People who are looking for a house usually just get to look at what's on the market and decide what is the best out of the options that are available, but they never really get to sit and be like, how do I want to live? Where do I want to live? And then create a space that really matches that. So we can all support each other, share our learning, share our tools, share whatever we can to kind of help groups, not replicate the things that they don't need to replicate, or have a basis to bring to an expert in their own jurisdiction that they can sort of teach easily and move on from there. And so whenever we share this idea, I don't think I've ever run into someone who's like, that's a bad idea. It might not be for everybody, so they're like, oh yeah, that sounds really amazing. Like I probably won't make the leap there. But on the other side, I've heard of a lot of people who've like, oh man, I talked to my friends about doing the same thing. So the one great thing about this is you can be intentional from, the early stages. I mean, I'm 40, but I'm planning this community so I can live there till I'm 80 or 90.